What's up, y'all? I'm Ryan.
I'm River.
We are b.creativ, and this is The Push. Today we're hitting number 8 in our 11 sustainable business fails that are killing your business. We touched on this a little bit last week. You're not printing sustainably.
So the majority of businesses are not printing sustainably from what we know. And what we've seen is that there is a big market opportunity for sustainable printers because there isn't a lot of them, and the ones that are there are usually relatively expensive because they're in a position where they need to fulfill minimum order quantities of high numbers to be profitable, which is understandable. And so to help move this forward, we need more of you to make the effort to implement sustainable printing practices.
Yeah, it's kind of a high barrier of entry to getting into the sustainable printing game. You need a lot of large pieces of machinery, and the way to be profitable is at scale. You know, you have to be creating a lot of books, magazines, many copies for that printing job to be sustainable for you from a business perspective. So it's interesting how there's a gap in the marketplace right now. We've experienced this over the past 2 years where it's really hard to find a low order quantity printer that prints sustainably. And when we say print sustainably, we mean using 100% post-consumer recycled paper, using soy-based inks, etc. And they print in a process that doesn't create a bunch of fumes and isn't polluting the environment in the way the machine works. So
I think the final aspect of that, right, is regenerative forestry, which we don't talk about a lot, but the process of actually, if you are using raw materials, is it coming from a specific place of, say, for example, where you own a farm and you're farming trees for paper and you're not tearing down forests. And so we know, right, virgin stuff goes into recycled stuff. And so it's important to just be considerate of where that stuff comes from too. And this is kind of part of the reason why we try to avoid all virgin paper, because a lot of that comes from places where we're, tearing down old growth forests, which are the main thing that helps us sequester carbon currently.
Totally. Absolutely. So the first thing that you can do to give you a way to take some action is when you do need a printing job, maybe just don't immediately go to the Office Depot, the Office Max. Just do a quick Google search and see, are there sustainable printers in your area? The answer to that may be no. There may not be sustainable printers in your area. And if you need a local job, you can't put in for an order at a place that's maybe across the country or across the globe. That's going to happen, and that's okay. And for a lot of this, it's just making the effort. Do the Google search, make the effort, see if there's something in your area, and those printers will absolutely appreciate your business. So that's just one actionable step that you can take, is just to look, just to begin the search. And then you can go into other aspects of, if you're printing t-shirts or those type of things, you can maybe source your materials, your t-shirts secondhand. And that allows you to at least from the one of the base materials, it's a recycled piece. And then you can take that to a local screen printer and get them to screen print the design onto that t-shirt.
This is a really great idea that we've actually seen implemented by some of our friends in the music industry who have gone on tour and they wanted to sell merch, right? But the price per unit on the fully sustainable, like buying organic cotton t-shirts, like fresh from recycled materials, was too expensive for their budget, because indie musicians are not the most paid for sure, abundant in finances, and they're on their way and they're doing well. We're proud of them. But so they thought of creative ways to get around this, and one of those ways was to go to the secondhand stores and buy a bunch of cool different shirts and then print onto those shirts. So they'd go find a couple flannels and
Mhm.
then print onto the back of the flannels and do little different emblems around, sometimes even doing embroidery and things like that. So, and then when you go to their merch shop, everything's unique.
Mm.
And so it's like everything was super cool
Mhm.
and one of a kind, and you're not going to find anything like that anywhere else, which was cool. You know?
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. So there are a couple options just to give you from if you do need print materials and stuff. There's a printer that we've used called greenerprinter.com. You can check them out. A lot of small printers aren't really advertising their services yet because they kind of have things in small quantities. So maybe even if it's not on the website, you can ask them if they're doing it. They have a few customers that are coming to them for these services, but they don't have enough of these materials kind of for the larger community. So go ahead and just ask them if they do those type of services, and that'll be really cool.
I think this brings up a good point too of kind of another step that you can take in this is being proactive with your current printer,
Right.
right? And being a leader within your local community and within your local business community, and those meetings, and if you're involved in that, letting people know, hey, I'm printing sustainably now, or I'm trying to print sustainably now. Has anyone tried to do this before?
Mhm.
And making a push as a business community towards your local printers and saying, hey, we've had this relationship for a long time. I come to you for all my printing needs. Do you have sustainable options? Do you have 100% post-consumer recycled paper? Do you have soy-based inks? And if you don't, are you willing to work with me because of our relationship in getting some of these things? And you might have to take a little hit on some upfront costs. But if you and a couple other businesses within that area or within those relationships put pressure onto them and they can see the value and the profit there, now all of a sudden we're making some systemic change.
Mm-hmm. That's a really great point. And that even takes us outside of the realm of sustainable printing. Whereas if you cooperate with your other friendly businesses in the area, you can really exercise that purchasing power to get sustainable materials really in any of the different industries that you may be sourcing materials and products. So it's working with other businesses is super important that share your values, because as the whole sustainability industry grows, everyone will profit. So just because you have another vegan restaurant across the way doesn't make them your direct competitor, in that you need to fight against them for everything and not cooperate. If y'all work together to raise awareness about why veganism is important, or raise awareness about why it's important to cut down on plastic or use sustainable packaging or utensils or whatever it may be, that raises the whole base of customers that can come and eat and purchase product and services at your store. So work with your other local businesses that are sustainably minded, and maybe if they're not sustainably minded, kind of push them in that direction and see if they're willing to with an open mind kind of learn from some of the things that you're doing. It's good for everyone. There are no drawbacks. So it may take a little chip off the shoulder. It may take removing a little chip off the shoulder, but I guarantee you, if you foster and build those relationships with potentially, seemingly competitive businesses that are also sustainably minded, the sustainable community within your area will grow, and that has nothing but positive benefits for both you, your business, and the world at large.
The last thing I have on that is kind of this competitive mentality, and we've talked about this before with some clients, and it kind of comes down to, we've been taught this competitive existence, right, where it's us versus everyone. And so we've had some clients come to us and say, so why would we collaborate with another alternative plant-based meat company,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why would Impossible Foods work with what's the other burger place?
Beyond.
Beyond Meat. Why would we work together, right? We're competitors, and the answer is, in one sense, yes, you are competitors within this niche, right? But your niche is less than 1% of the entire meat market,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so why would you fight over crumbs, against each other for 1%, when what you really should be doing is going together and fighting to take away from an industry that's 99%, away from the meat industry, away from animal agriculture, and say, hey, once we get to a point where our alternative meat industry is 80% of the industry, then maybe we can switch into a competitive model. But even Pepsi and Coke historically play off of each other. You know, the Coke Pepsi challenge, who benefited from that in the end, right? Was there a winner? Both of them are winners because they put this thing together, you know? And so, you know, we've had this conversation, and I guess the example that I've given is, okay, we have a Taylor Swift concert, right? Or Billie Eilish, better example. Okay, we have a Billie Eilish concert. There's 75,000 people there, pre-COVID, and we have two meat companies, Impossible and Beyond, and we want to do a collaboration, right? And so what does that look like, right? Well, let's make half of the concert vendors Impossible, and let's make the other half of the vendors Beyond. So I don't know why I always forget their name. And then let's have a contest, right? Let's have a who can tell the difference if this is meat or not, you know, and have the whole thing sponsored by both of those two entities. And so everywhere you go, you're involved and immersed in this experience of alternative plant-based meats that no one can really tell the difference if it's meat or not. And now all of a sudden you have 70,000 people at this concert now talking about both of your products, not just one of your products. And so these are just some of the examples of kind of immersive marketing experiences that we talk about.
The Coke Pepsi challenge is a great one because they collaborated on that. The two major clear-cut competitors with each other collaborated on that, and guess what? You had people buying both cases of Pepsi and Coke, bringing them home and doing the challenge themselves. And at the end of the day, everyone has their own preference, so there's not a clear winner except Coke and Pepsi. So yeah, you know, this one's pretty straightforward. Just to bring it back to the printing aspect, Google sustainable printers in your area. Maybe talk to your existing printer to see if they can handle sustainable printing jobs. It'd be great to collaborate and cooperate with other businesses so you can exercise some purchasing power to get these services enabled or allow for the minimum order quantities to be met at these sustainable printers. And just be mindful of what the waste that you're creating in general. But yeah, I think that's a pretty straightforward one.
Yeah.
And thanks for tuning in. My name's Ryan.
My name's River.
Check out b.creativ for our sustainable web and design services. And if you want some really cool content at scale that's ridiculously cheaper than anything else you'll find, check out the Content Jaguar. Till next time.
Later.